Some of the unresolved questions in the area of brain research lie in perception, memory, and the nature of intelligence. Jiddu Krishnamurti has explored these questions without any scientific background, and yet has indicated that thought is limited. He has also indicated that there is an intelligence beyond the ordinary functioning of the brain. As long as there is psychological conditioning, which is the self, this intelligence cannot act. I would like to introduce you to Dr. Sheinberg, is a psychiatrist from the United States. Dr. Pete is a physicist, writer, and filmmaker from Canada. Professor Bergström is a neurophysiologist at the University of Helsinki, Finland. Professor Varela is a neurobiologist at the Max Planck Institute for Brain Research in Frankfurt. I am a neurobiologist and teacher at Brockwood Park. One important instrument in the understanding of the brain has been thought. I was wondering if we could discuss whether thought can help us to understand the brain and the complexity of life.
Do I start right off?
If you wish.
So can one understand one's own brain and the activities and the complexity of the brain without operating on animals, dead bodies and so on? Can one observe the very complex structure and nature of the brain in oneself rather than seek it externally, outside? Is that possible? I feel it is possible if one can watch very carefully, objectively, without any bias, the reactions, the biological responses, and the inward urges and temperaments and idiosyncrasies, the whole complexity of human existence. To approach this very, very complex problem. If one has a complex mind, then it's not possible to understand complexity. But if one can approach it very simply, I mean by simplicity, without compulsion, without will, without a direction, motive, just to watch the whole operation of one's own activities and so on. And then I think it's possible to examine or to observe one's own, the activity of one's own brain without seeking it externally.
What do you mean by understand?
By observing. I don't mean understand. By watching very carefully the complexity of oneself. What's the operation of thought, how thought arises, what is the cause of the origin of thought, and the activities, both externally, technologically, the movement of thought, and the limitation of thought.
when you say that, is it possible to understand the brain, do you mean only thought and psychological reaction, or do you mean things like the fact that I can see the glass,
Yes.
perception? Do you mean perception as well?
Surely.
And the use of language?
Surely. Linguistic,
Yeah.
all
Everything.
that, the whole complexity of human endeavors, action and feelings, and all the imagination, the whole content of it.
And learning,
Watching.
and being able to learn something new. Being able to learn and work in a totally new situation.
Would you call it learning? What is there to learn? By just watching.
Well, that seems to me precisely where there seems to be a fundamental distinction between merely observing, or not merely observing, or completely observing,
Yes. Without the me.
without the me,
Yeah.
and a notion of creating a way of understanding how that observation comes to be, which is traditionally what Western thinking has done, including science, creating what one can call a model, a process, a theory, a law, whatever. Now, would that endeavor be out in the approach you are proposing?
I don't quite understand out.
Would not be pursued, would be left behind, that the actually coming up with a theory or a model that would explain how does it come that we see what we see.
Theory or model.
Mm-hmm.
Is it necessary to have a theory and model to see what's actually going on?
I wouldn't say it is necessary to see what's going on, but it seems to be necessary, as far as I can understand it, to understand why do I see what I see. If one has the inclination of asking the question beyond the seeing, why do I see what I see?
Why do you see what you see? Why do I feel what I feel?
Yeah, why do I see blue when I see blue? Very simple questions like that,
Yes,
which are the
yes,
ones that
I
I've been
understand,
concerned
I
with as well.
Is it? We've all called that book the book.
Right.
And that's, I accept that. We accept it, all of us. That thing is called a book.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing is called a table.
Mm-hmm.
But
why?
a computer can't call it a table immediately.
But then you can ask yourself the question, why the computer can't and we can? How
Because
are we made different?
We have got the capacity to see anything, 4 legs or 2 legs or 1 leg, a table, instantly.
But what is that capacity?
This is the point.
See, what is the capacity to do it, and then what is the relationship of that capacity to, in other words, what is your capacity, what is the relationship of your capacity to say that's a book to your
That's a
capacity
table.
to say it's a table, or to your capacity to see it's a table?
Well, perhaps I think we should go at the very beginning question you said.
Slowly, you mean.
You introduced the question of observation somehow, and which were different from theorizing about something. And I think perhaps it would be good to start clarifying what do we mean by observing something.
Should we do that, sir?
I felt that he clarified it very well. I felt that I understood what he meant by observing. I don't feel...
What did he end? Well, will you tell me what you think he meant?
All right, I'll try. I think he meant by observing completely bracketing a pre-assumed understanding and going into a mode of not being self-centered, but of being with the object or with the movement without any precondition.
But
To the extent that that is possible, then there is an experience, there is an observation.
So, sir, does that imply to observe there must be no conditioning?
Yes,
well, I think
That's what
I think I understand.
Yeah.
we have to go slowly here because somehow you mentioned you see an observation without the me. And
Yes.
it doesn't seem to, for me, so clear that, because whenever I'm looking at something, there seems to be this separation between my observing at something. There seems to be this division in the brain.
Is that our conditioning?
Yeah, it seems to be one of them. But why
Yes,
is that?
There is a seer and the seen,
Yes.
the observer and the observed, the thinker and the thought, the experiencer and the experienced.
Well, turning it the other way, though, from what Professor Varela was saying, there's a relationship. I'd like to know, what do you think the relationship is between the theory and observation?
Well, this is precisely where I wanted him to move.
I don't think there's any theory.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, I mean, you accept, therefore, that what the endeavor you are proposing would be a radical departure from what has been all of the models of
Yes, sir,
knowledge
yes,
from the
sir,
West.
yes, sir.
Because
If I may be wrong.
no, but this would
but
not have anything.
In observing, why should I have a theory about it?
Mhm. Well, it seems to me that can I try just that
Yes,
for
sir,
one moment?
please.
When I look at that question, it feels that there is something inside me that by itself is inquisitive about why is it? How come this is the way it is? Isn't it interesting that the paper is white and the book is blue? Isn't that interesting? Why isn't it red? It is
Oh, there's a red book there.
yes, but why is that red and not this one red?
Because we have called that red.
Yeah, but why have we called that red? What is the process
What's the process?
through which that comes about?
Yes.
You
What
see,
is
that
the
is a
process?
natural inquisitiveness that leads one into building this sort of theories,
Yes, I
which
understand.
eventually, for example, might allow me to build a machine, right, which would have a mind with big quotation marks of thoughts.
Like
That could
computer.
say, which could say, oh, that is a red book and that is a blue book, just at the same time when I would say it.
Yes.
I wouldn't, and we would consider that interesting. That's what
No,
interests
that's
me in
not
science.
very interesting, no.
No?
Yeah, go on,
Right.
some of your
I
that
find
is
it interesting.
All right, go ahead.
I mean, that seems to
I
be the
thought
whole
you-
pulsation of
I
science.
thought you said that was not very interesting. I thought you said that was not very
no. I find it interesting, and that's why I said, when you ask, do we need a theory at all? I said, not really, but there is this inquisitiveness that seems to constantly come up of asking the question of, how is it like that? How can we understand that? How can we have an image, a representation of
Yeah,
a
but
process
is
where
there-
that can
Yeah,
be?
but I don't think you're saying enough, and I wish you would say
All right,
more
please.
about what. It's not just that the theory is good because you're inquisitive, but the theory also functions to establish for you, or for me, the interrelationship between these issues. Therefore, you're not just looking, because this ultimately will come down to our question, what is the relationship of theory to observation? But your theory functions as a way to help you distinguish red, white, and blue, and why you're seeing it. And therefore, you have an interdigitation of many different aspects of your curiosity.
Yes.
Can we come?
See, I mean, it's
Suppose you
more
ask
Yes,
it at a
you're
much
right.
more a simpler level.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about perception, and it's not clear whether we're talking about perception as psychological perception. But if we just asked how you see the glass, and Krishnamurti has said that it's possible to explore the whole mechanism of seeing the glass of water by one can observe oneself doing it. You know, I think all neuroscientists would say that that's nonsense. That can't possibly be true. There must be many levels of operation which are purely mechanical, which we can never have any direct experience of, at the level of the eye and the optic nerve. And Krishnamurti seems to be saying something different, but I'm not sure if I understand that he's saying something much more radical than that. Is it possible to be aware of every level of the process?
There are two coming back to the original question about brain, understanding brain as such, or dissecting it and so on. So, if we see from the point of view of neurophysiology and brain research and so on, so there exist, as a matter of fact, two kinds of brains. The whole brain, what I perceive as I am seeing, blue, red, and so on. But then the other brain is the brain which consists of its parts, the cells, synapses, molecules, and so on. And the physiologist looks, and there comes the theory in, isn't that so? Experimenting, dissecting, theorizing, and so on, looks at the brain which consists of the parts, which is an ensemble of fragments. But then the other, and now I am coming to the original question, the other brain, we have to face as physiologists also that brain which perceives, which is only one, me or whatever the individual calls itself, and that's another brain. I always think that we have to distinguish between those two. And the first would be the theoretical brain with fragments, parts, and so on, and the other would be the human brain.
Yeah.
And therefore, I answer Krishnamurti's question that I think we can really know about brain without dissecting it, without
Dissecting.
dissecting and
That we cannot, you said? That we cannot? Is that
we
what you said?
can study
You
the
can,
brain as a whole. That we do. So
Why do we divide the brain?
yes, that's the question.
Why not treat it as a whole movement of it?
I do. I don't have anything against that.
But there
That
is
doesn't resolve the issue
No,
of whether we need the
exactly.
theory for the observation.
I know.
Because I can have a theory which is a holistic theory,
Yeah.
which deals with the brain
Not
as
a
a
theory,
totality.
Not holistic theory,
No.
but it is so.
Yes,
But you see,
theory.
I think the theory comes into being in order to organize the certain facts that you have. I mean, so you have to give in a certain coherence and logic to the facts that you are accumulating. And I think what Professor Varela said is something very interesting. If you take, for example, a child, from the very beginning it seems this natural tendency to discover things, you know, and to attribute meaning to things.
But the theory cannot be holistic. Theory has in all these parts, connection with
Ooh, that's a touchy one. I don't
That's my
agree. But that would take us
By
in another
collecting all the
direction.
parts, you make the whole.
No,
disappear.
of course not.
No.
I agree absolutely. But what I mean by a holistic theory is a theory that has built in itself the awareness of its fragmentedness,
All right. One
which is quite a
aware-
different thing.
Can we put it this way? One is aware of that we are fragmented human beings. Right?
Yes.
Those fragments, we are trying to bring all of them together. And that doesn't make the whole,
No,
No, it doesn't. That's true.
right?
absolutely.
So,
So how is one to proceed then?
huh?
How is one to proceed then?
You see the obvious.
Well, it doesn't
Great.
follow from that.
I mean, spokes. You collect all the spokes of a wheel, but the spokes don't make the wheel. You have to put it, right? I don't quite see the difficulty in this.
But to put the wheel together, you also need some technical knowledge, as well as the perception
Yes,
of the whole.
but
And
is
where does the
that-
technical knowledge come from?
is that what we are trying to do?
Well,
Technical knowledge, how to put the brain together?
no, but you say to understand the brain, it is not necessary to. The technical knowledge is really not important. The
No,
dissection.
I didn't say that, sir.
Oh.
He
I'm
said,
sure this is
can
what I-
we have a theory?
But without the dissection, without opening the hood of the
I mean-
car and seeing all the parts inside.
For my part, I can say that to me it's a fascinating question because I would nothing that I would like more than to be able to ask the questions about how knowledge works without having to disrupt an animal. It sort of pains my heart that we have to carry on with this knowledge by disrupting life. I don't like that. As a matter of fact, I don't want to do it anymore.
No, sir.
But still, the inquisitiveness is there.
Now wait a minute, sir. Where should we begin? We could put
Yes,
so
I think
many
we
things.
yes, somehow.
There is one reason why we should know a little bit about brains, cells, and so on. And they are the diseases, you know, if it's a disease, a
So-
sick brain. So that, I think, was one of the reasons why why they began to fragmentize.
Yeah, perhaps we could
Dissect.
come back and stick to one question, and said we started by,
Yes, sir, go
by
on.
saying, can the brain understand itself? What does that mean, really? And is it possible that thought can understand the brain? I think we should stick to that somehow.
Yes.
Would you say, sir, the brain is the center of thought?
No.
Just
Sorry.
let me go.
Sorry.
Thought, feelings, physical responses, biological responses, and also the brain is the center of one's quote consciousness, fears, pleasure, anxiety, for all that, sorrow. The whole of that consciousness, if you accept that word, is in the brain. It's not out there. Would you-
I'm afraid I would have to disagree.
How delighted.
I don't think that thought or consciousness is in the brain, that this is precisely one of the greatest mistakes.
Wait, sir. Thought is outside.
It's neither outside nor inside. There is a quality of relationship which
Yes.
thought
Wait
is
a
of.
minute. So, wait, sir. Then we have to inquire what is thought.
Okay.
Can we begin with that?
All right.
Yes.
Huh?
Good.
Would you?
Yes.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. What is thought? What is thinking?
Do you want to
We-
go first, or shall I ask
well,
me?
discussion.
Okay, fine. I would say that thought belongs to a form of action which is related to separating a unit from its context. That any separation of a unit from its context is a form of cognition or thought
Thought.
at a
What-
fundamental level.
Yes, sir.
Therefore,
What-
the thought cannot exist without the relationship between that which is distinguished and what it's distinguished from.
Wait a second. Would you say then, do you think that thought is a event that arises de novo, or is it some sort of process event which articulates the separation and arrives at the in other words, that the arrival of thought is the articulation of the separation?
No,
Therefore,
no.
it's
an emergent quality.
an emergent, so
Yes.
it's not de novo a separation,
No.
it's an emergent event.
Yes.
If it's
Absolutely.
emerging, it's emerging.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's important, emerging not as separation at the instant, but
It's
as
immanent in the action of the
imminent,
separation.
That's
It's
what I was
emerging.
distinguished.
Yes.
Right.
Being born.
Exactly.
Well, that's an important distinction.
Yes, sir. Being born all the time.
Exactly.
From where?
Yeah. What's the source?
What
of
is the
thought?
source and what's the event?
Right?
Right? The source is,
The thought is being born, emerging,
yes,
growing, coming,
absolutely.
and going. Right? From where?
Well, wait a minute, that may be the wrong question, from where? Because you've established in other words, by saying from where, in a sense, you've already defined
No,
made
no,
a definition.
No.
And you've just separated out process from, you've made a distinction, which by saying where, you've got a definition.
No. I want to know what's the cause. Put another word for
You
that.
got to have another, I'm saying, I would say, would prefer is what's the action that arrives in thought?
No, it's what is then we have to ask, what is action?
Okay. That's
What is the
better.
source of movement?
Yeah, what is
Yes,
this whole
right.
movement?
Okay. When I inspect that question for myself, in myself, the only answer I can get to is it's an unlimited frontier.
Yes.
That is, the moment I am in thought, I have obscured for myself that which I'm asking. Therefore, the source of movement or the source of thought is an unlimited space, which is beyond thought.
I wonder.
About what? What do you wonder?
What is the relationship between thought and action? That's what we are discussing. aren't
Yes,
we?
but thought occurs, thought happens.
Yes.
I
thought-
find myself in thought.
Therefore, it is action.
So
Yeah.
you just now said thought is born,
Yes.
comes into being,
Mm.
right?
Right.
It must have some causation.
Yes. But in order to see the causation, I would have to put myself out from thought.
We'll see. We'll see.
sorry.
So we have now to inquire whether it's possible to observe the causation without the observer, who is the outside.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right, sir?
Right. Absolutely.
Right, go ahead.
And the question as you phrase it,
Wait.
yes, I'm sorry.
So, can one observe the cause without the observer?
That's a,
Yeah.
Let him finish one
Yeah,
more
go
step.
ahead.
No. Let him finish
sure,
one more step.
yeah.
Right? Can the causation be observed without the outsider or the observer, the witnesser?
Right.
And which means the observer, the person who perceives, is not the observed, the observer.
Say that again.
Yeah, please. Can you say that again?
Say it again, Christian G. Come on,
I
again.
know, I can't repeat it. I'll put it
Another
I'll put it another way.
another way. There is a perception of you
Yes.
sitting there and I sitting here. When I see you, and you have been introduced to me, and so on, I remember all that memory of it. He's the observer. Can I look at you without the observer? Without the knowledge of you? You understand?
Yes.
Of course I can.
I think we have to go slowly there because it's a great step there.
Yes, you can.
Of course.
Yes.
Therefore, the observer is the observed.
Yes.
There is no separation.
Absolutely.
There is separation only when there is the observer different from the observed.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right?
So that's an observation.
Huh?
That is an observation.
That's real observation
Yes.
without the observer.
Correct.
The observer is the past,
Mm-hmm.
memory, knowledge, experience.
Yes.
All the observer is the past. Can
Right.
I look at something without the past?
Mm-hmm.
Of course it's possible.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I don't know.
Just let me finish. And then what is action? You understand?
Yes. What is action for that
What is
non-observing
action? Leave that
observation?
for the moment.
Okay.
What is action? When there is no observer. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What's action?
Must be of being together only and nothing else without separation.
Well, I would like to,
Come
if
back.
I may, come back to the question, you see, why are we normally doing the separation, you see, between what we observe? The brain is normally doing that anyhow. So perhaps one could say that it might be normal for the brain, whether
That may be our tradition.
Yes.
That may be our education. That may be we have been told from childhood that is different from you. You are different from me.
But when you were introduced to him, let's say, when you were introduced to him, your perception of him at that instant was the observation without the observer. Then now, when you look at him, you've got the memory.
I begin to accumulate, the brain begin to accumulate the knowledge
So
about
there was an
him.
action.
He says he won't operate anymore. So I said, but Joe, is he, you know, all the rest of it. So can I look, forget, No. My point is this, to put it much simpler, not to record.
But you did record.
I did, but that's a very
No, but that's not my
Yeah,
point.
well,
You didn't record, then you did record.
No, sir. No. Just a minute. In my relationship with you, with you all, I've recorded. Suppose I've recorded. Then that record becomes the observer. But if there is no record, there is only C observing.
But
Yes.
suppose we say that
Yes,
the brain is recording.
I see. No, sir. Is it possible not to record?
Well,
I know the mechanism of recording.
Well, you see, but even when
You
you...
know, for something
Yeah.
else.
No, I think that's an interesting point.
Can you hold on just for a second, because I want to pursue that for one moment. But we have agreed that it is possible to observe without record. Yet,
No, is that a theory or
no,
actuality?
yes, it is possible for
No, the
flat.
moment it's possible, you have made it a theory.
I think we have to agree it's a theory for us. It's a theory.
Yes, you see, that's what I'm...
We're
I
not
don't
being
object.
honest. I don't think we're being honest.
Of course, sir.
Yeah, we're just saying yes, but we don't really believe that.
No, that's true.
You see, for example, I don't know what you say. I mean, normally science, you know, there's a person doing science, and to a certain extent, one could say that this division between the observer and observed is necessary to a certain extent, right? When you are dealing with an experiment or with the outside world, right? So now it doesn't necessarily follow that psychologically, you see, we are doing exactly the same.
I understand, sir. Yeah, after all, as a human being, we're the result of 50,000 years,
Yes.
right? Tremendous accumulation of knowledge, experience. Oh, all that I am that. And that is looking at something else. So separating itself constant.
Yeah, but also, you see, this is precisely the point, that separation has to be sustained by an ongoing process which has constant breakdowns. And at the points of those breakdowns, there is that closing the gap. So in my perception, for example, of you right now, I'm constantly having gaps or flashes of this observer, and it's like cracky, it's gappy.
I say, why? Why does this
Well,
Yes, why is
is it?
contradiction all the time?
No. This is precisely the point. Why do we have to see a contradiction there?
Yes,
It
I can
seems that both
explain
things,
it. One
both
can
things are
explain
there.
it.
What did you say? What did you say?
No, I was actually going back to
Yeah,
something
no,
that you
right, yeah.
raised, that it seems that we have both of them. Right? Observation with observer.
So
and-
at one level, yes. If I met you again tomorrow,
Yes.
I can't reintroduce and say you. It would be silly.
Yes.
But at that level, it's necessary. Right? But at a deeper level, why should I carry all the memory of meeting you and all the. Why should there be recording of it at all? I meet you.
Yes.
Finish.
But didn't you just
Yeah.
answer the question by saying that if you did one without the other, if you just met me without accumulation, then tomorrow we would have to go
Oh,
through
no,
the
that'd
circus
be
of
absurd.
presentation again.
That's very
So
insane.
therefore, both of them are
Yes,
necessary.
at one level.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what the...
Well, I would like to hear you say more about what I've never heard you use those words, level. What do you mean by levels, and what is the relationship to levels, between levels in your terms?
I think it's very simple.
I'm stupid, I don't understand.
I'm still
That makes three of us.
So I need to know how to write a letter, right? Their knowledge is necessary. Drive a car, anything. physically to do anything, I must have a great deal of information, knowledge, and accumulated memory and so on, right?
Yes.
Psychologically, if you don't like to use that word, inwardly, I don't, why should I accumulate? Why should there be accumulation?
Yes, but if I understood well what you were saying, Francisco, and you, even when you say that the brain does not record, there's still a process of recognition, you see, which necessarily must involve certain levels of memory.
We said that.
Yes.
We
you
said
see-
that.
So what do you mean by when the brain does not record?
Is that possible, first of all? Psychologically not to record. You understand my question?
Yes, but
You say something brutal to me.
yes.
Why should I record it? This recording is the self.
Oh, well, there are many
But
questions.
Suppose I said that to see anything, there has to be a great accumulation. That you could say that there could be no perception without the accumulation, and the accumulation includes the actual structure of the brain that's evolved over millions of years. That is, in a sense, a form of memory. Matter has formed in certain connections, and that is preserved over a very long time. So I could say that there's no perception without some form of accumulation of memory and knowledge.
Of course, we agree.
Yes,
We've
yes.
stated that.
So without that there is no perception, and this is something that's always continues. And this is different from. Is this different from a psychological recording?
That's what we are
Yes,
asking.
I think that's an important question to clarify.
So, we made it clear just now, didn't
Yes.
we?
Absolutely.
That I need knowledge to put, if I'm a carpenter, I need great deal of knowledge.
Yes.
The quality of the wood, the grain, and the instruments, and so on, so on, so on. That's necessary. I don't object to that. That is so. Otherwise, we can't live. But at the psychological inward level,
What level is that?
I will
What
forget
is
the
that?
word. All right, throw the word out. Inwardly,
What is that? What is inward?
the feeling, the psyche. You should know your psyche. You are.
But is there a differentiation between these two levels? Are you pulling the two apart and saying that's
No,
the psychological, that's the practical?
No,
And
I
the two can be
see.
absolutely
I
separate.
see knowledge is necessary, and also I am questioning whether inwardly, psychically, psychologically, any word you use inside the skin, as it were, why should there be any recording at all?
Okay, now.
But just wait, sir.
Yeah.
This recording inwardly is the divisive process.
Yes.
The divisive process is the self, the me and the not me, which is creating havoc in the world. Right?
Yes.
That's all.
Now,
And
No,
I
but-
say, wait, let me finish. Is the mechanism which has gone on for centuries, the me and the not me, can that mechanism stop? So that there is no me. In the me being the self and all the rest of it. That's all. This has been not only a question of this for the scientists, for the religious people, the serious ones, not the phony ones. The real religious people have said, can there be no self at all and live in this world, not go off into monasteries or run away from some kind of fanciful entertainment. Actually live without the self. That's all. Which requires further statement, which is it possible not to record inwardly psychic and all I say it is possible. You may say you are nut, you are crazy, but it's all right. We'll discuss it.
There is, I think, a stage in the development of the child. You see a very, very early child.
Yes.
Possibly the child can
You
have
see it
this.
already in the child. Give him a toy
Yes.
and you try to take it, it's mine.
Yes, but I think before that stage is a child in 1 or 2 years, but then comes the that's mine.
yeah,
But
yeah.
before, there is a stage
Probably not.
where I think they live together. They are one with the mother, and so there might be a
I believe I read somewhere, or I've been told, I'm not a reader, I've been told by scientists who are looking at the babies, that the babies already know when a visitor is friendly to the mother or not.
yeah.
Already, you understand, sir?
Already.
By the atmosphere, by the feeling, by the mother shrinking or saying mother.
That's true.
But in your question, one of the reasons why it has so many sides to it is that as a brain researcher, as a scientist, it seems reasonable to say that the brain is organized so as to construct a stable world, therefore to solidify, to record in your words. That's what it is there for, if you want.
I understand, sir.
Right. I mean, this is what his history has been. This is what its main, maybe you disagree, but at least as far as I understand. Now, it is only when it comes to human beings where this question is posed that then we can ask ourselves the question, is this no recording possible as a swimming against the current of natural history, as it were?
Evolution.
Of evolution,
Yes.
because natural history goes the other way. And at the moment, this possibility arises, and then is it possible to unlearn evolutionary-wise so as to come to the state of living in the world without recording, without self,
Yes,
and yet be a functional human being, able to brush your teeth?
Of course, I said that.
Yes, of course. No, I know. My feeling is that that is a question that can only be answered by exploring it from actual experience of human beings. And the history seems to say, yes, it is possible. We have examples, and we know people who seems to have done that. Now, from the point of view of what implies for the brain, it's a fascinating point.
So
Because
therefore, Grant, sir, could we put the question differently?
yes.
The brain has evolved through time. Centuries, a million years, or 40 million years, whatever it is, 40,000. And has reached at probably a highest level as much as it can. And that involves time, duration. What is time? Right? Unless we understand what is time, I can go on indefinitely, right? People have asked too, is there an end to time? Not science fiction, actually. Right?
Yes.
Now what is time? Apart from the clock, cut
Yes.
it out. Time is the past, the present and the future. So time is contained in the now, all time. So the future is now.
Yes.
No, sir, it's not a theory.
No, I understand.
The future is now, and the past is now. Right? Then what is action? If action is, I will do the future, or I have done is not action. Action is now. The very word act means now. Right?
Yes.
So, can the brain, which has evolved, you follow my question?
Yeah, yeah.
Go on, sir.
Well, but the very description of saying the brain has evolved is already the trap.
We said that, it's a fact. I'm not denying that. But if there is no radical revolution psychologically, we'll be tomorrow modified as today.
I want to come back to something.
Yes, I would like to.
I'd like to come back to where we were at the very beginning of this, because I see a connection here, which is the fact that at the level that you talked about, the so-called inward level,
I
Where
leave
the-
the word level. I say cut it out.
Inwardly.
there is an action. Now, at the beginning, we talked about the fact that that inward action, immanent in that inward action is thought. And immanent in that movement of action is thought, which separates. Now, the
Yes,
thing
sir.
that's where time gets. That's where
That's what we are
that's where the
saying.
twist
Therefore,
comes.
we are saying thought is limited.
Yes, but what I'm trying to get at is the fact that in the inward level, and I'll keep that word for the minute, out of the inward level comes thought. Now, the question is, what is the relationship of that movement, that action, to thought?
I don't quite follow you.
Well, in other words, the state of observation without the observer, the action has immanent within it thought.
No, sir. Sir, the observer is the observed. We agreed to that. Right? Right?
Yeah.
It's not a theory.
But immanent in that,
Sir, no, just wait a minute, sir. The observer is the observed. That's a tremendous fact. It's not a theory. It changes the whole way of living. There is no division as the observer and the observed. Therefore, no conflict. And that's a theory.
Of
But
course.
to live that way, which means total eradication of conflict, upon which the brain has evolved. You follow?
Yes.
So when there is that observer is the observed and no conflict, there is a radical change in the brain. You follow?
Yes.
It's a whole mutation takes place, if I can use that word.
Yeah, but your mutation implies time.
And mutation is, no, mutation is
That's already yes.
biologically as well as inwardly, there is a radical revolution. Because our brain has lived for 40,000 conflict.
Now, can I ask you, what is the connection now between that possibility,
I would not, you see, I wouldn't use the word possible.
all right? What would you use?
When you use the word possibility, it means it may be possible.
Yes, okay, that actuality,
Means time.
Actually.
right. And the question you posed at the beginning, can I observe my brain
Yes.
without turning it apart?
And without books,
Yes.
all these books.
How do these two things relate? Because
Would you state that question again?
okay, you said at the beginning, I would like to say that it seems that I investigate my brain without tearing it apart, by seeing what is.
Yes.
It's
By
movement.
seeing exactly what
What is, yes. And now you have also said there is the actuality of the ever-present nowness of the non-distinction where the observer is the observed.
So, do you realize what that means?
I do and I don't. It
To
comes and
you,
goes.
it's a theory.
Sometimes
Forgive
it
me,
is, sometimes
I'm
it's not.
I'm not being personal. I mean, it's
No,
a
I
theory.
Well, sometimes it's not.
No,
Sometimes
either it
it's
is
not.
or it's not.
Well, it comes and goes.
No, it can't.
Why not? It is glimpses
Sir,
which
make
do
it
not persist.
simple. When you see something dangerous,
Mm.
it's finished.
Well, why
You
not?
don't go and say, well, I'll go and play with something dangerous. It's over.
No, but you can see the car coming and get out of the
You
way.
get it. You do, but you can't, each time you see car coming, keep out of the way all the time.
No, but sir, are you telling me that it is not possible to learn by having a glimpse of something? When you have the glimpse, you are there. And then something else happens that takes you off. That there is a possibility of building on the continuity of the glimpses. That why does it have to be a black and white? That it either is total or is
Well,
not.
Don't put it that black and white. That means total division.
Well, that's what I understood you as saying.
Well, I think what you are saying is that in one's lifetime, one sees certain things, one discovers something, and then becomes again a memory from which one acts.
Which is not the thing
yes,
itself.
But I think what you are saying, that the moment when you have an insight into that, that's obviously is not memory somehow.
It is
Yes.
actuality.
Yes.
But then it becomes memory,
Yes.
and then it becomes actuality again,
Yes.
and there is this
The back and forth.
back and forth. No.
No.
How is it then?
Sir, look, put it, I'm not a philosopher or anything, I'm put it very simply. I have been going north for the last 40,000 years. You come along and say, look, that goes nowhere. Go south or east or west. The very movement of moving away from north to south, in that moving, in that movement, the whole brain has, the cells of the brain have changed. Because it has been accustomed to going there.
I see. So you are
Keep it
raising.
simple, keep it simple.
Yes. So you are raising. Is that at all the case? Is that available to human beings?
Oh yes, if they pay attention.
Yeah, but this is precisely my point. That
They
in my
don't.
own
They
experience
don't.
and
They
in
don't.
Yeah, but why don't they?
Yeah.
No,
Why,
because
why?
so that's simply, there are so many interests, so many, first of all, they have to earn a livelihood, not that we don't have to. They have dozen problems.
But wait a second. You came in and you've been introduced to Professor Varela.
Francisco, please.
Francisco, you were introduced to him, and
And to you, and to
to me,
him.
and to me. Okay, and tomorrow you come along and you say to me, "Oh yeah, well, hello, how are you today?"
Yes,
Implying that you remembered.
of course.
So now, what's the relationship between that and this other?
Oh, sir, we've made that clear.
No, we haven't made it clear because we're bringing up here that are you in that state at that moment? It seems to me you're not. You're caught by something else.
I recognize, sir, that it's necessary that constant being introduced is silly. I see that's necessary. But inwardly, it is not necessary.
What's your relationship to me at that moment that you're recognizing me and seeing it's not necessary?
What do you mean it's not necessary?
But at that moment, what is the state?
I don't quite.
In other words, at the moment there is recognition, what is the action? Is there the state of action without the memory also going on?
I don't quite follow.
Well,
What do you
perhaps
mean?
what he's saying, the very fact that you recognize somebody implies memory.
Of
to a
course,
certain
I
degree.
said that, sir.
Yes.
But what is the action then at that moment of the memory?
What do you mean by action, sir?
Well, are you able to, is one able to observe without memory while using memory, while seeing
yes.
the relevance of memory, but not being
I
trapped
see
by
the relevant. I see it is relevant to have memory of certain kind. Inwardly, I mean, why should I have the burden of memory? You say something to me flattering. Why should I carry that? It's silly.
So now here is our man walking for 40,000 years to the north.
Huh?
Here's your man or our man or me walking for 40,000 years north.
No.
And then come along and say, it's possible to walk south. And for the first time I turn around.
At that moment, there's
Yes, but now the observation, this is not theory, the observation of both the world, the natural world, and in myself is that I turn south and then I said, no, I have to go north. And I said, well, maybe I can go south. And there is this kind of process of until one finds a permanent or reorientation.
no. Why?
Selection.
Right.
Why? Just
Why?
I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
Why do we do this? I have been going north, and you come and tell me, look, don't go that way, it's stupid. Go south or east.
All right.
And I'm not quite convinced. I'm not quite sure whether you are right, because I've been used to going north.
That's right. You have to try it out, etc. Yeah.
I've been used to that. And you say to me, go east. I said, I wonder if he's right. Let me look at the east. No, there is this attraction to north,
Yes.
which has been going on for 40,000 years.
Right.
And also, I listen to you, there's some logic in what you say, reasonable, seems sane, and I turn, but the attraction goes on, which means what? I have not really listened to what you have said. Whether you are really serious, you understand? Whether you mean what you say, whether you are experienced, it's your, not theory, it's yours. You understand, in the sense that you have found it. So, what you are, the quality of your voice, the quality of your being, says go east. And I say, but you have listened to it very, very carefully. Then I go east, I forget north. It depends whether you're speaking the truth or the theory. I'm not you personally.
No, I understand.
I mean, somebody say go north. I say, well, my dear chap, what do you know about it?
No, granted. But again, I go back to the observation that kind of complete communication.
That's all.
Yeah, but that kind of complete communication.
Complete communication, then I forget north.
But why doesn't it happen?
Because we never, very simple, sir. In going north, have found security.
But that's not true. I
Yes,
don't
sir,
agree
yes,
with
sir.
you.
Don't reject it, don't reject it. Look at it a bit more closely.
Well, what I meant is that
Sir, to change a habit, physical habit, right? Which is fairly simple, but psychological habit demands much greater energy.
Okay, then look, what is it that would, then let's go at it more concretely. What is it that would break the habit of memory?
No, sir, no,
Mutation.
no. Well, memory is necessary, right? To write a letter, to read a book, to drive a car, to linguistic communication, all that is necessary. But inwardly, Why should there be all this memory carried about what you said to me, why you hurt me, why you follow all that stuff? Throw it out.
That's too simple. That's simplistic. Just throw it out. We don't.
It's not. It may sound simplistic, but it's not.
We don't.
Why? That's the point he was raising.
So I'm raising it too.
Because first of all, sir, you come and tell me, I have been going north for the last 40,000 years, right? And you come and tell me, go east. I don't believe you. Who are you to tell me? What do you know? I begin to doubt, I begin to question, I'm cynical. So I've shut it off, all communication. But if you are really serious, in the sense that you have gone east, your whole being is different. Right? I don't know. You're no longer theory, it's a fact. I think that we are cursed with theory, sorry.
I go back and look at the history of many of the greatest and most alive spiritual traditions, and all they have been concerned is to precisely coming up with skillful means to constantly reopen up that communication, because human beings seem to be incapable of actually sustaining that communication, except in the most extraordinary cases.
Why?
The only way I can say of why is to become again a biologist and say there's just too much past.
Yes, sir.
And it takes a long time
And,
for a change
yes,
to
right.
occur.
Yes, sir.
And there is no way we can
That's
change
right.
that
I know
faster.
that. I know
than-
that all.
All right.
I know. So we have taken 40,000 years, another 40,000 years.
Well, maybe less.
Less, all right, 20,000. You don't say that to a person who is suffering.
No.
No. Exactly. A person who is frightened, who is lack of security. Say, we thought, boy, you have lived that way for 20,000 years.
But wait a second. You just said that I'm going north, and I don't change because I'm finding security in the north.
Yes, sir.
But I'm not really finding security in the north.
I think I...
But I think I am.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, now, what is the understanding of the false security? In other words, how am I going to understand that it's false security?
Yeah, where does understanding come into the whole thing
Yeah,
to see what is
See,
false?
in other words,
No,
why don't you tell me I'm going north, and you say go east, and I say, look, this is fine by me. I don't believe that that's any better.
Yes.
Why should I listen to you that that's better?
You don't.
That's right.
Why?
Because both of them seem, I don't know why.
I tell you what I think. One listens, at least for glimpses, and then frightens back, is because going north causes pain.
No, going north?
Causes pain.
Going north.
Yes.
Why?
Because the security is constantly based in a sense of struggle, which is painful. Therefore, that is what allows the communication of the alternative to happen, because you say, that seems better. It's as simple as that.
But would you grant that human beings want security?
Yes.
The brain can't function at its highest
Yes, that's what it's
energy
built for.
if it is not secure. Right? So where is their security?
Well,
Yes, wait. Either it's in illusion, or in a bank account, right? Or in my relation to somebody. I want that in my relation to somebody, I want it secure. No change. For God's sake, remain as you are. And no living being can remain what they. So there's conflict.
Yes.
And in spite of that conflict, I say I must have security in her
Yes.
or in him. Right? Or I seek security in God, in some faith, in some belief. Right? Which are all illusions. So I seek security in illusion, in relationship, in the bank account, or in the nation, in my tribe. Right?
Yes.
My brain is wanting security.
Yeah, I mean, the brain
That's-
wants security and memory and thought, but
Of course.
why
of
is
course,
that?
Of course. See, it must have security.
Yes.
And now, the professors, the scientists come up with new theories, new problems, new issues, and the politicians, you know what they are doing. And you come along, oh, so many gurus, so you follow, I'm lost. So I said, my God, where am I going to find security? Right? So another theory comes along. I say, yes, I'll hold on to that. Sounds reasonable. Right? So I'm always, brain is always searching for security somewhere. Right?
But there's also something, you see, I have a different, the same perspective, but slightly different in the sense that the brain not only is searching for security, but the brain is offering itself security in the process of the actual insecurity.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
the genius
Agreed.
of the brain
Add-
is
That's the
doing
genius
that.
of the brain, is
add-
to
like-
deceive itself.
add that to its.
Yeah, but it's essential because it means that we're stepping on our own toes all the time.
That's what I'm saying. You invent God and then worship God.
Exactly.
Right. So it is like somebody building up a Hollywood stage and then forgetting he built it and lives
yeah,
happily
yeah,
ever
yeah.
after.
But then the question, go ahead. Yeah.
I think we have the same question.
Right.
That this is precisely the point, that we are so used to that, which we can understand. It's crazy. That is completely crazy.
Absolutely.
Right. But it is like a body which has been falling for 20,000 meters, and 5 meters before the ground, it cannot say stop. It can say it's stupid that I'm falling, but there is this mass of
Massive
inertia
impetus
that
and
continues.
so on.
And the experience of man's past has been that that kind of complete communication, of completely grasping the craziness of keep on going north, has to go through that flicker. And the learning is stabilizing that flicker until one internalizes that. And that might take, I don't know,
So that's the
a
whole
lifetime
point.
or whatever.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
You see, going north has taken time,
Oh, a long time.
long time.
Yes.
And also you need time to go east.
Yes.
So you think, not you, we think time is necessary to change. Yes, that
Yes.
comes that.
I don't think that. No, I don't think that. I think we need to come to an awareness. The thing I object to in what you're saying is the fact that you're implying somehow or other that we can think, that we can see it. And I'm saying that we're so caught by our stepping on our own toes, we'll never get out of it. We have to somehow to come to terms with what we are.
Yes, sir. Just
I
a
mean,
minute.
we're stepping on our own toes.
Yes, sir.
That's our nature.
But wait a minute. Somebody like me or X comes along and says, just keep quiet for a minute, please keep quiet. Just listen. But we can't keep quiet. Right? We're chatting, telling me you're right, you're wrong, you're... And I said, for God's sake, keep 5 minutes quiet.
Do you know the story of the scorpion and the turtle? The scorpion comes along and he says to the turtle, how about taking me across this lake? Turtle says, what do you think, I'm a nut? You're going to get out in the middle there, you're going to sting me, and we're going to drown. Oh, why would I do that, says the scorpion. We'll both drown. Turtle says, yeah, you're right, we'll both go. So get on my back. So they get out into the middle, and the scorpion stings the turtle. He says, what'd you do that for? He says, that's my nature.
But I mean, where do we are now? You see, we started with the question whether we can understand the brain.
So let's begin again.
That sounds good.
First of all, I would like to ask, do we see thought is limited? Whatever it does is limited.
Yes.
And I don't know why you accept it so quickly.
Oh, because it's something that I have been exploring myself.
Yes, which means our experience is limited,
Yes.
our knowledge is limited, now or in the future. Therefore, our memory is limited. And without memory, there is no thought. So thought is limited. The sequence.
Yes.
So, whatever it does is limited. Technologically, psychically, or inwardly, it's limited. Right? So, and limitation must inevitably cause conflict, division. Right? And therefore, is it possible for thought to operate where it's necessary and not operate in other directions? Good?
Is there something which is not limited?
What?
Is there something which is not limited?
Maybe, we don't know, but you can only find that out if thought has its proper place and no other place. Right?
But I think the confusion arises when you say thought might be used in one place and the other place not. It seems to introduce a certain fragmentation in it.
No, sir. Thought is necessary. I'm speaking to you.
Yes.
There, I must know English, and you know English. If you spoke French and I spoke French, then we will be speaking the same thing, right? Or Spanish or Italian, we'll do the same, right? So, knowledge is necessary to speak in English, right? Right? Of course.
Right.
Now, what has knowledge any place in the psyche?
Well, I would say that it helps to a certain limited extent to understand oneself.
No, may I say
Yes,
here
sir.
that in Finnish, from Finland, the Finnish language has the word no is tie, and it would be in English road.
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 To
A
road.
The road, yeah, the
road.
road. That's knowledge. But then understand in Finnish is ympäri, it is embrace. Do you understand? So
To
that
embrace.
in Finnish language, to know would be to go along a road and not to not to know anything else. But
Yes, sir.
then
Yes, sir.
this understand in Finnish is embrace, go around. And therefore I objected that you say that knowledge and understanding would be the same. I think
No,
that
no, what I'm saying
no,
is
no,
that...
but the brain has two ways. The knowledge is really to go this particular way, you see, and search and search and so. But then this understanding, that's a function of the brain also. It is to embrace.
Yes, I
all.
understand
And that might
Well,
clarify.
what I was saying is that
this thing also.
that even knowledge, you see, has in itself a certain understanding that might be limited. I mean, might be so. His
Could,
significance might
could
be
you
limited,
use
but
different
understanding is not.
words?
a different word.
Insight.
Or intuition.
You
don't like
Intuition a bit doubtful because you can having desires and you can.
Could we say then that the understanding coming out of memory and thought is to a certain extent
Let's
mechanical?
use the word insight for
All
the
right.
moment.
Yes.
Yeah, insight.
I have an insight going north is futile. And the insight says go east. And I move. There's no interval between the movement.
Yeah, but again, we keep coming back exactly to the
Sir,
same
that's
point.
what I'm saying, repeating.
Yes, but sir, you asked the question a moment ago. Can we have thought to take its proper place
Yes, there.
there? Now, that is to say, we are respectful for what it is.
Yes, yes, put it yes.
Right. Now, when you say, I have the insight to go east, and I do it, to be respectful to thought is also to realize that it is in the nature of thought to obscure that insight, to fill it with thought,
Of course, then it's not
and
insight.
continue to go north.
Yeah, it's not insight.
Well, it was for a moment, and then it was occluded.
I understand you're repeating the same thing.
Well, we are all going around the same subject, because I'm trying to see, let me put it this way, the question I have is, what is the basis from which you're saying that in that insight, all thought will be put into its right place without the flicker?
Yes, sir.
What is the basis for that?
It's now 5 minutes past 1. Should we stop?
Yes.
We can pick it up next time? From there, please.
Yes, all right. Anywhere you like, sir.
Insight, understanding, knowledge, is all the important question.
So first of all, we ought to discuss what is insight,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The word. To have sight in something, right? An insight implies no memory, no time, quick perception, instant perception.
Yes, but the perception has to display itself through.
Wait. Instant perception. Have we got that? Have we got that?
Obviously not.
Say, for instance, I see something instantly, and it's that perception never changes. I see the futility of all religions organized. And so I don't belong to any religion. There's no going back to the temple or to the church or to another guru. It's finished. I recognize those are all four forms of entertainment, really. So I don't want to be entertained. It's finished, wiped out. There's no any kind of temptation to go and investigate, look. I understand it. And this is a fact to me because I've done it. I'm not boasting on it. It's so. Right? I take any factor which human beings cling to, this terrible nationalism, right? I say to be a Hindu, to be a Muslim, right? So I finish with it. I don't go back and say, oh, let me play with nationalism a little bit. So can one move that way? All through life. that.